What do we say, Adam?
Thank you for joining me. To say thank you.
Thanks for checking in.
This chat, you know.
Give us a thumbs up. Hi, my name is Alina Lucia. I work at Dutchmen Cockails in Amsterdam, where I'm currently the bar manager. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about Women's Day.
My name is Mel Hack. I'm one of the bartenders here at Whisky Alement. Tonight we are hosting Alina downstairs. We're doing a little pop-up, showcasing some Scotch malt whiskey cocktails. And today we're gonna drink some whiskey, talk about the whiskey, and a little bit of our background as bartenders. Yeah. When did you get into bartending, and how long have you been doing it for?
Actually, I started bartending probably in the worst year you could start. Started in January 2020.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
So I had my first bar job in March 2020, and I lost my first bar job in March 2020.
Yep.
So at the time, because obviously there was fuck all to do, so I started just reading a lot at home, trying to learn a little bit more about spirits. I built a bar from scratch, basically, like from wood, because I was very bored and you could only go to the hardware store, basically, to make a fun day out of it.
Yeah.
I was training a little bit at home, and then in December 2020, I applied for a mentorship program. In the meantime, I already had found another job, but by coincidence, I was matched with Tess Postumus, one of the bar owners of Flying Dutchman Cocktails. And so when I moved to Amsterdam in June 2021, I got a job at Flying. So I started working 1 month after, in July, and I'm still there. So I moved up from junior bartender to senior bartender to shift leader and now to bar manager.
Wow.
So all in 3 years, which is very fun. I also do our socials at the bar.
Yep.
That's what I do.
Oh,
What
wow.
about you?
Well, I started bartending around maybe like 2018, something like 2018, 2019. I've been in cafes and restaurants before that, but I really got into bartending after a trip to New York, actually. I went to a bar called Attaboy. You might have heard of it, yeah. And was just blown away by their hospitality. It was like casual, but really like attentive, and just warm. And I had a bunch of what I felt was like ridiculous questions and silly, but they were like just really took their time and had a lot of patience with me, and I really admired that, and how that they could just whip up cocktails just like that, you know, just say, oh, I like this, I don't like this, and then they could just make something. And I think that's what's actually, that love for cocktails has translated that for whiskey for me as well, because downstairs at Whisky Alement, I feel like I've been able to take the same approach, eat with cocktails or whiskey. If someone comes up, tells me they like this flavor profile, they don't like this, like I can take that same approach. So it's really, I really love being able to do both now. Yeah.
No, I get that. We have a similar approach at Flying Dutchman Cocktails as well, because we focus on classic and neoclassics, so that's kind of our main thing. So with an 800 bottle strong back bar, but not like you guys, very focused on whiskies, but everything. We have everything from people who don't know anything about drinks but want to learn, people who don't know anything about drinks but just want to have a good time and don't care too much about knowledge or anything, but just basically want to have a good night out. And then we also have the people who come because they know they will find some like bit more out there stuff or some special editions. For example, we are also partner bar of the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society. So we have a bunch of people also coming to try the whiskies there, which is pretty neat because there's not too many, I think, in Amsterdam. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 other ones.
Partner bars. Yeah.
Or in the Netherlands. So yeah, it's pretty cool to always be able to explore as well. So I have a very similar thing of, that's the thing that I enjoy the most as well, listening to people, seeing what do they like, and then getting into talks and figuring out stuff together. Because even now, for me, sometimes I pick up a bottle at the bar that just came in, And I'm like, I have no clue what it is, because sometimes it's also not in English or any of the languages I can speak.
How many languages do you speak?
Well, English and German quite fluently. And then I speak a little bit of Italian and a little bit of Spanish, and Dutch quite. So I understand a lot of Dutch also because it's quite similar to German and English. So this, and if I really try from Italian, I can read a little bit of French, but that's then the limit. The rest is Google Translate, but sometimes we'll have, honestly, so many languages that at some point you're like, yeah, I have no clue what's in this bottle. Google Translate can't really help me out because they're telling me it's something random.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then you just have to taste it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, should we dive into a whiskey?
Yes, which one do we want to start with?
I reckon we go the one next to you. What do we have there?
We have the Glenbergie. Let me turn it around. You can read because I can't read.
Okay, fair enough. So we've got Society Cask number 71.109, a Nordic Cranachan. Is that how you say that?
Cranachan?
Maybe Cranachan. I always thought it was Cranachan.
Cranachan. A Nordic Cranachan. And so these whiskies that are in front of us, so as we mentioned before, is in support of the International Women's Day, and it is supporting our Whiskey Foundation, a little non-for-profit supporting women in whiskey. Very cool. You want to have a little... Oh,
cheers.
Cheers. A little nose taste.
Ooh, very fresh.
It's quite perfumey.
Yeah, right.
I got like
Quite floral.
a little like lavender.
Yeah. Heather. Honey.
Yeah, a bit of crunchy nut cereal.
Yes. Definitely. Very cool. Oh. Also stays kind of like floral, fruity, no?
Yeah, it translates on the palate, definitely. I think it brings out like a bit more... Has this like mango and cream sort of thing as well on the palate. I find it gets a little tropical.
Yeah, definitely.
That's quite fun. Is this your first time in Melbourne?
It is actually also first time in Australia.
Okay, cool.
So it was quite a fun trip so far. I've been here for a week and a half now in Melbourne just since yesterday. But I definitely love both cities so far. Also, the weather's so much better than in Amsterdam at the moment. Before I left, basically, we had a week long with no sun, -2 degrees.
Oh, wow.
Super windy, mainly rainy. It was honestly not fun anymore. It's just a few days. You can kind of, chill in bed, have some soup. It's very cozy. But then at some point, you have to go to work and you're like, I really don't want to go. And it's like, oh my God, the sun is shining. And then actually the funniest thing was, my girlfriend was warning me about the weather conditions here. She's like, you gotta wear the sunscreen because it literally feels like your skin is burning if you're in the sun for too long. And I'm like, I'll be fine. Classic European idiot, right? So I was like, I'll be fine. Can't be that bad. We arrived in Melbourne and we were in the sun for like literally 5 seconds. And I'm like, yeah, we need to go and buy sunscreen because like it is so hot. It's like a different kind of
It
heat,
is, definitely, yeah.
So yeah. Have you been to Amsterdam?
No, not yet. Oh. Yeah, would love to come someday.
We should see.
Have you done any other pop-ups before?
Yes.
Oh, you have?
Yeah,
Oh.
I've done a few, like not in Australia, obviously, but in the past few years, I was really lucky to travel quite a bit because Flying Dutchman Cocktails is also, we host a lot of pop-ups, we go on a lot of pop-ups. I think in the past 2 years, we have easily done or hosted around 80, 90 guest shifts at Flying. And then we've done a similar number as well going somewhere. So I think one of the coolest, most exotic places I've done a guest shift in was Japan last year.
Yeah, cool.
That was really cool. And I mean, this is also pretty dope, like Melbourne. So yeah, I've done a few, and it's always very fun to also see bars in their little natural habitat. And I've only done like one masterclass so far, which was a little bit tricky because it was sponsored by a brand, and I'm not a brand ambassador. I know my fair share about spirits, but the thing is, they texted me the day before, so the masterclass is fully booked, and it was about a Guyanan rum, like a rum from Guyana, and they were like, oh yeah, and by the way, the honorary ambassador of Guyana is going to be there, and I'm like, oh shit, like I've studied, I think I know a lot, but now I feel very stressed to like represent a country I've never been to, and it's like product, and I'm like, oh god. That was fine, it was a lot of fun in the end.
Good.
But at first I was like, what are you doing to me? But it was super cool.
Yeah, it's I've done a few master classes around Melbourne, Brisbane,
cool.
And then I went over actually with Scotch Malt Whisky Society up to Leith in Edinburgh. I host, not a master class, but I host a little tasting at the Queen Street, Scotch Malt Whisky Society Queen Street bar, which was really cool. But yeah, it's always a lot more daunting before it starts, and then it naturally progresses. Everything ends up being all good at the end.
Especially if it's a tasting though, it's so much fun because you feel also people loosening up after the third tasting or so. You know what I mean? Because people are like, oh yeah, cool, we're having a little drink, we're having a little chat. That works out usually quite fine. So cool. So have you done also like besides that other pop-ups or not so far?
Not really, not a lot. A few in Melbourne, I find the bartending community is pretty tight knit.
Yeah.
And people like to do little bar swaps even just within the city. Yeah. So I've done a couple of those.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, which is really lovely.
Yeah.
And then a couple in Sydney and Brisbane. But yeah, nothing outside Australia pretty much. Yet.
No, that's very cool because I feel like even in Australia you have such a great bar scene from what I've seen so far, and it's interesting because so far also when we visited other bars it's very communal, and I'm also curious what it's like with a outturn of people that show up to guest shifts and masterclasses, because for us it's sometimes at the moment in Amsterdam a little bit hit and miss, so either it's going to be packed or there's like 2 people, and then it's like a little bit awkward because you're there and you're like, cool, so nobody's here.
Yeah, I think that's quite the same here. Well, for pop-ups, I think everyone gets around it. I don't think they're always really popular. Masterclasses can definitely be hit or miss. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Yeah.
Should we taste
the other one?
Yeah, for sure.
What do we have?
So we've got Society Cask 122.78 Divide and Conquer, 8-year-old, initial cask being ex-bourbon, final cask being a second fill Oloroso hogshead. Cool.
Very nice.
Kitty. Yeah.
And pepper.
Yeah, cracked pepper for sure.
Right? But also some stone fruit action.
It reminds me of the soda for your drink tonight, actually. Kombu and pepper.
Yeah, actually, now that you say it. Yeah, a little bit of saltiness. For sure.
A little bit of metal shavings. Fish and chips by the ocean.
Yeah. With a little fire. Definitely also quite savory on the palate. I feel like.
Yeah, it has this nice what is it? It's I find meaty tasting notes hard to distinguish sometimes because I am vegetarian. But I do remember what meat tastes like, but it just takes me a while to remember. But it's maybe
like that lamb.
I was going to say, yeah, like Greek lamb or something,
Yeah.
or some tzatziki or something.
Yeah, definitely. I love tzatziki as well. I just said food, but now I'm like, I'm smelling this and drinking this, and I'm like, oh, this would be banging with also like a burger or something, like something super juicy, cheesy.
Yeah. Yeah, the texture's really great. It's like so oily. It's like olive oil is like coating your mouth. I'm just like, as soon as I like swallowed, like I'm like salivating again. Like it's carries so much. The length is amazing. Yeah.
So speaking of women in the industry, what's it like here in Melbourne? Like, is it pretty equal? Is it a little bit
like, is it the ratio?
Yeah,
of,
the
like,
ratio.
Female to male bartenders, like that kind of thing. I think in Melbourne, I think we've actually been really lucky recently. We've had a lot of. It's been a big influx of bartenders coming down from Sydney and Melbourne. Sorry, Sydney and Melbourne. We're in Melbourne. Sydney and Brisbane. Female bartenders coming down from there. So I have noticed recently there's definitely been a huge uptick, which has been awesome. But for a long time, you know, well, still to this day, like where I work now. I'm the only female, apart from obviously the owner, Brooke, but like behind the bar, that is. And then the previous workplace before that, I was the only female. So it is always, you're still always, I feel like, in my experience at least, it's been like, the ratio has been like 1 to 5, like one female for 5 males. So it's pretty much been like.
What about like also higher positions like bar manager, bar owners? I mean, Brooke, obviously a bar owner, which is cool.
Yeah. I personally only know, about a handful, to be honest, and the large majority of managers, owners, I feel it's still definitely a male-oriented.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think that there's definitely been a lot of pressure in the past. I mean, it's been a lot of pressure for a long time, but I think it's been like an increased pressure the past few years for there to be more representation and have a louder voice. So I think that it's slowly, surely, we're creeping up in position, like higher management positions, things like that. But it is still definitely dominated by males, for sure. What about in your industry?
Very similar. I actually recently had a chat with one of the bar owners, Tess, and she was like, what do you reckon is like the ratio of like bar owners and managers, like people in like higher positions, from women and men in the Netherlands? And I was like, I don't know, maybe like 15% women, and she's like, no, it's about 1%. Which I was like, holy crap, like that is so little. Yeah. But it's also something that definitely is hard to change, but I think already I've seen more really talented people coming up in the industry. It's just always also this thing of there is a lot of confidence for a lot of young bartenders, but I don't see it quite as much in like younger female bartenders. Like I have a lot of people who are like, yeah, I would love to do, for example, competitions or do this or do that, but like I'm not there yet. And I'm like, well, if you don't start, you're not gonna get there as well, which is always the trickiest thing. And then I have other people who did like a bartending school and they apply to all the competitions, they go everywhere, and I'm like, look, I wish sometimes they would have this confidence as well to just try and go out there and do cool things and try to network a little bit more, because I think that's what's missing a little bit. And also like brands making an active effort to have a little bit of inclusivity, because a few years back I actually was really upset with a few brands because it was like also another whiskey brand, but they did a brand trip with only men. Like, it was 15, 20 people and it was only men.
Yeah, wow.
And then another brand did like this whole thing where everybody got cool jackets and stuff, also only men. And I'm like, guys, are you kidding me? In all of Amsterdam, you can't find one single woman to also be at least included. Mm-hmm. You know, and I'm like, come on, is that the best you can do? And I don't think it is. So usually then I am a little bit bitchy and make no good friends with some brand ambassadors, but somebody got to say something.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah, but sucks to hear that it's similar.
Yeah.
Like, I wish it was a more even thing, but it's really cool then to have chats like this with you and like also in general see more people coming up. I think there's also a lot of great organizations now that do a lot of cool work, like the Ada Coleman Project. I don't know if you heard of it.
No.
But they're basically building a network of bartenders, bar managers, bar owners. So it's basically an online network where people can reach out to people, you know, and connect everyone. So that's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
I'm going to show you later.
Yeah,
but
cool.
Stuff like this is just really important, I think.
For sure.
Nice. All right, I think you gotta go to work soon, and I gotta prep for my pop-up later.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
So let's get going on that, eh?
Well, yeah, thank you for coming to Melbourne. Thank you to the Scotch Malt Whisky Society for hosting you.
Yeah, thank you.
And yeah.
Yeah. Cheers.
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 Cheers to International Women's Day.
International Women's Day. Cheers.